Have you ever wondered what Disneyland would be like if they had cuttlefish and were in space? Evidently, so did the devs of this game and decided to perform a field experiment. Now, everyone who's familiar with the matter knows that Lovecraft games are not created equal. Even though the bar isn't set terribly high, I still feel that, gameplay and technical concerns aside, a proper Lovecraft game is all about presentation and atmosphere. In this regard, I think there are broadly speaking two categories, or maybe more of a scale to be more precise. Those who mostly just get it, those who think Lovecraft has vaguely something to do with tentacles and maybe the color green. Now, this categorization may seem kind of vague, arbitrary, or even nonsensical to you, but it's actually very comprehensive. Here's my math. It's fairly self-explanatory, but let me elaborate. The former manages to grasp the Lovecraft vibe on an intuitive level, presenting the strange, incomprehensible horrors lurking just behind the thin veil of conventional reality in a manner that seems natural and effortless. The latter, on the other hand, often ends up rather cookie-cutter and uninspired, where a bunch of Lovecraftian elements are mindlessly thrown together and the horrors from beyond time and space end up as just kind of funky-looking cartoon villains. A hearty stew versus slop, if you will. You might have guessed, the question now is, where on the scale does the shore fall? Well, we find out soon enough. The shore is what in the business is known as a walking simulator, with gameplay elements such as left-click, as well as some puzzle and horror elements. It was developed by Greek 3D artist Aris Dragonis and a handful of other people and released in 2021. With a crowdfunded budget of a little bit short of 5,000 euros and a development team of no more than 4 people, you know you're not in for the AAA experience. Aris himself stated that the game was a passion project from the beginning, which he primarily started to test his skills in 3D sculpting and game development. According to his own statements, he seems to agree with me that ambience and atmosphere are what makes a Lovecraft game, and he set his skills towards providing just that. Now let's take a look if he succeeded.
Oh, stop it! It's not my daughter's voice.
We play as a fisherman named Andrew, who is apparently looking for his daughter on a strange island. It's never quite explained how he got here, and I'm not sure what kind of predicament our daughter is in, or if she's even still alive, but you'll quickly come to find it doesn't matter. It doesn't take long to realize that something is seriously amiss in this place. The island is full of strange artifacts, statues, there are shipwrecks and ominous notes of previous visitors everywhere. None of this bodes well, but things quickly get bizarre when we encounter these petrified bodies who apparently just couldn't handle the eldritch spaghetti. When an ominous voice starts giving me orders, I immediately, without hesitation, follow through and jump into this pit filled with corpses and a dubious liquid.
Don't you proceed into the pit? There's something I would like to show you.
I also had to search far and wide across the island, possibly putting myself in mortal danger for these discs that could get rid of these statues because apparently Andrew just couldn't muster the strength and resourcefulness to walk around them. It was at this point I realized this is less of a game and more of an art gallery. Aris made most if not all of the assets for the game himself, and the first 10 minutes are already stuffed to the brim with his creations. And it would only escalate from there. And I gotta admit, I was kinda into it. The stuff looks pretty impressive and appropriately spooky alright. Not only does Aris seem to have a good grasp on the Lovecraft mythos, but displays a real talent in putting all the fishmen and space squids into visual form. But where does it all lead to? This is still a video game after all. Well, the game is fairly short, so I decided to simply show you my own playthrough. Spoilers from here on out. In order to find our daughter, we make a deal with Nyaruko. The game hasn't revealed yet that it's him, but come on. If you're familiar with Mr. Howard Phillips at all, have ever read any Lovecraft story whatsoever, or seen a photo of him, or maybe you've heard the name of Lovecraft's cat, then you know this is the spaghetti devil Nyaruko himself. He instructs us to do a couple of chores for him, which will lead us around the island and a couple of other places. A brief chase sequence featuring a Debron signals to us that the game is now getting dangerous. And after descending into the ocean, we are met with yet another obstacle we simply cannot walk around. Things truly escalate, however, once we meet an elder thing in the Kraken tunnels and are spirited away to the void. Nyarlathotep, who is using eldritch powers to hide the fact that English is not his first language, tells us to pick up an artifact which for all intents and purposes will function as our gun from here on out.
Harry, find the artifact. It is in the cell of a child.
Now you might say by this point things have gotten a bit out of hand. Anyone else might have wanted to sit down for a moment and think about the direction their path has taken. It was mere minutes ago Andrew was back on the island, somberly contemplating the time he used to spend with his daughter. But far be it from Andrew to question what is even happening at this point. He simply rises to the occasion and leaves a trail of destruction in his wake. Going from humble fisherman to elite eldritch warlock in the span of minutes, traversing dimensions and witnessing abominations meant for no man, leaves this man cold as a deep sea. And believe me, Andrew's cosmic ascent has only just begun. After our short trek through the void, we arrive back on the island where we, undeterred by danger or the potential repercussions of our actions, follow our parental instincts, which leads us to free Dagon himself to wreak untold havoc upon the world of man. We are barely an hour into the game, and our actions have already taken on an apocalyptic scale. That's how dedicated of a father we are. Take note that so far Nyarlathotep has kept everything on a need-to-know basis without ever explaining the reason why we're going through all this. But as professional eldritch mercenaries, we don't ask any questions and simply do what needs to be done. Now, despite being as on the nose as it possibly can be, I still felt that the game got Lovecraft, or at least Lovecraftian imagery, mostly right. Regardless of the other lack of subtlety, the game still managed, through its cool visual style and soundtrack, to create an atmosphere of space, squid, dread that in my opinion few Lovecraft games do, and I had at this point high hopes that the game would deliver all the way through. However, we soon got to stand in front of the big guy, Cthulhu himself, and, well, those familiar with the original story might remember that Cthulhu can only be freed when certain constellations are in place, requiring interference on a literally cosmic scale to wake him. This game, however, took certain creative liberties, and all we have to do is solve a puzzle intended for actual toddlers.
You seek an audience with the Great Old One.
I guess, I mean, I'm not even sure why we're knocking on his door in the first place.
Brought you here, mortal. How did you come by this artifact?
I made a pact with the Dark Shadow.
The Dark Shadow? What gets you straight to send you into the void to do his dirty work? What did he promise you?
This is supposed to be the Great Old One? Why does he sound like a cartoon villain? When did Dr. Robotnik turn into an octopus? Have we been fooled? Is this maybe some kind of eldritch dollar store knockoff instead of the real Cthulhu? Could Nyarlathotep simply not afford the real thing? It's probably the puzzle, isn't it? We shouldn't have skipped on the constellation thing. Nyarlathotep had previously congratulated Andrew on having kept his marbles together despite everything he's seen, but it was at this point that I, the player, was actually starting to lose my sanity. This encounter gave me whiplash of the highest order, and I found it hard to fathom how the game could go from this to this. Most works nowadays featuring Cthulhu deviate strongly from Lovecraft's original vision of him, so it's not surprising this game would follow suit. However, this Cthulhu is closer to an overbearing middle manager rather than the incomprehensible demigod alien he was originally supposed to be.
Who would have known that things like him existed?
Now, our man Andrew remains completely unfazed at the prospect of Eldritch Robotnik laying waste to the entirety of mankind, casting aside his morals with a resolve only a video game dad can muster. And I, for my part, was terrified what else this man was capable of. Andrew was clearly Nyarlathotep's top soldier. Still reeling from our encounter with Saturday morning Cthulhu, we make our way through the Eldritch Intestines dimension, doing who knows what undeterred and entirely at peace with ourselves. And like a true Special Forces elite ranger of the crawling chaos, we even end up defeating the boss. In one final act of unrepentant slaughter, we prove our loyalty beyond any doubt and hand the artifact over to Nyarlathotep himself. Now I gotta be honest, right from the very beginning I had barely any idea what was even going on, so it didn't really surprise me when the artifact somehow ended up summoning Yog-Sothoth.
Liberal wants and dimensions.
I'm not sure what he's doing here, but that's one more major character we can cross off the list. Now, Ares had been completely shameless in cramming almost every major Mythos character and creature into this 2-hour game, so it shouldn't really come as a surprise that eventually we end up face to eye with the chief of the universe, Azathoth himself. And I gotta admit, it's a pretty impressive sight. Moments like these is where the game truly shines, without any awkward gameplay or terrible voice acting to distract us from the real meat of the experience.
Kill yourself, but in the end, it is all part of this dream. Proceed. You will understand.
One last reveal, Nyarlathotep, the rascal, explains to us that our daughter is fake and never existed. He simply needed an elite commando to sabotage reality itself for a bit of cheeky fun, and the fake memories were simply there to get us motivated. And it's hard to deny we were the perfect men for the job. Nobody else could have done this. I'm not quite sure what it is we accomplished in the end, but I still felt kinda proud nonetheless. Nyarlathotep even gives us a pass to edit Azathoth's dream as we see fit, retroactively turning the entire journey into some kind of eldritch tantric yoga-kawa ritual, I guess. I'm sure there's a sutra out there that talks about this. The entire game clocks out after about 2 hours of playtime. Concerning our original inquiry whether the shore is stew or slop, the game in my opinion mostly falls into the first category, with one major hiccup I might add. The gameplay and story are barely there and at times downright nonsensical and only exist to provide some minuscule context for all the sights and sounds the shore has in store for you. The voice acting, both on the technical and professional level, was for the most part downright terrible, and it is clear the game desperately tried to hide that the actors do not speak English very well.
Great entity, accept this boy out of your coastline.
Accept this offering. Grant us an entry to your realm.
The sound design is adequate, for the most part. It generally rounds out the otherwise lackluster gameplay experience pretty well, but I gotta give credit where credit is absolutely due. The shore is much more of a theme park than it is a game, and boy does it deliver on this part. If you're a fan of Lovecraft and have a sense for the Lovecraft aesthetic, then the game is an absolute feast for the eyes, and I can honestly say that I've never seen a game that displays the sheer alienness and otherworldliness of cosmic horror so well. Coupled with a pretty cool soundtrack, the game is a testament to Ars' artistic talent and his solid grasp on the setting. And I genuinely hope that Ars gets to put his skills to good use in the future, because anything else would be a terrible waste of talent. That being said, the game goes for about $10 on Steam, and I'm honestly not sure if that's a justified price tag. I got it for less than $2 during a sale, and I feel like I got my money's worth in that regard. But honestly, you don't even need to play the game to enjoy it. Just go find a stream or a let's play. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. By the way, if you ever want to see a faithful, proper depiction of Cthulhu, read Go Tanabe's manga adaptation of The Call of Cthulhu. It's pretty darn excellent.